I'm going to do an expose on the detrimental effects of PBMs on the entire healthcare system. PBMs are pharmacy benefit managers. I've been asked to do this anonymously because PBMs are multi-billion-dollar companies that could come in and take away my contracts and close down my business for unjust reasons. And I know that's a possibility. But I'm going to show my family and my children that when something's wrong, and it's not just wrong to you, it's wrong to the entire economy, you stand up for that and you fight with everything you have. My name's Owen Sullivan. I graduated in 1992, top of my class from St. Louis College of Pharmacy. And I'm going to show you how, using average figures, that a PBM can take almost $2 million out of the economy per independent pharmacy. There's 22,100 independent pharmacies. So who should watch this documentary? Anybody who buys prescriptions or is going to buy prescriptions. Anybody who has parents or grandparents that are on Medicare. If you're a company that pays for the insurance or the prescription drugs for your employees, you need to watch this. If you're a state or federal government, you need to watch this. Everybody needs to learn how a very non-vital part of the healthcare system, the PBMs, are taking out mass amounts, almost $2 million per store. Some of you might know what a PBM is, and some of you might not. I'm going to explain it in a way that hopefully, even if you've never heard of a PBM, you'll know everything about them. The United States is currently in the most detrimental profit scam that they've ever had. People are sitting in jail right now for $15, $20 million, and PBMs are taking hundreds of billions of dollars out of the U.S. economy annually, and no one even really knows this exists. There's very few people that even know exactly how they're doing it. So I'm going to explain what a PBM is first. A PBM, their real name is a pharmacy benefit manager, but what they should be called is a pharmacy benefit manipulator. And I'm going to show you why when I show you the figures of how they're doing everything. They just manipulate numbers. They have convinced people that they are saving the economy money and trying to keep healthcare costs down and keep drug costs down, where when in actuality they're driving up insurance prices, they're driving up the cost of brand name drugs, and they're costing hundreds of billions of dollars to the economy. So PBM is basically just a middleman. It's the person between the pharmacy and whoever's paying the bill. Whoever's paying the bill could be the state or federal government. It could be an insurance company. It could be a self-insured employer. So the pharmacy runs the claim. These people are paying the bill. This is just a middleman. It's just an electronic switch. They really don't do anything in the whole system, yet they're sucking out all the profit. How did they start? Well, they started back when computers were coming of age. And say you were a large employer that had 20,000 employees, and you had prescription coverage for them. They would go to they might go to 1,000 different pharmacies, and those pharmacies would then in turn send 1,000 bills back to the large manufacturer, the large company. That company would in turn have to write 1,000 checks back. So these PBMs came in and said, hey, we've got computers, we can make this easy. The big manufacturer will only have to cut one check. We'll divvy it out to all the pharmacies and we'll charge you about 10 cents a claim. So all the pharmacies and all the companies were like, hey, that's a great idea. It's going to save everybody time and effort and it's a lot less confusing. That's how they started out, 10 cents a claim. So then as more and more PBMs came into the market, how would you as a PBM try to make yourself look more beneficial than another PBM? So these PBMs started making pharmacies fill at a discounted rate. So, they would say if you want to fill prescriptions for the large automobile manufacturer that I represent, you're going to have to fill at a discounted rate. Well, pharmacies didn't like that, but they ended up taking these contracts because they didn't want to lose all the clientele that was associated with them. So at that time, PBMs became known as a saver to the economy, a saver to the person paying the bills, and they got a name as a cost saver. And at that time, they actually were kind of a cost saver, even though the pharmacies didn't like it because we were getting paid less. Everybody else in the whole system was doing a little bit better out of the deal. So then from that stage, that's the last time they were good, and that was probably 10 years ago or longer. From there, they figured out tons of ways to absolutely bleed the economy. And a lot of these things directly affect the consumer and directly affect the state and federal government paying the bill and directly affect the large businesses paying the end bill. So I'm going to explain how this affects you. The PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers, came up with a formulary for what they were going to pay for drug-wise. And what that formulary should be is they should have had a bunch of doctors and pharmacists get together and say, what drugs are the best for this situation that cost the least for the person paying the bill. That's how a formulary should be set up. It should be the most effective, that's the most economical. They didn't do that though. They went to the companies and they said, hey, who's going to give me the most money? Who's going to give me the most money? And whoever gives me the most money, that's who I'm going to put on my formulary. Well, that is the beginning of the end, because what that did is so many things that are bad for the economy and for the pricing schemes and everything. And I'm going to explain what it did. By allowing the manufacturer to give a kickback or a rebate, it allowed the drug manufacturer to price the drug way higher than they could have in the past, because they knew that they could give them this. It's almost a bribe. It's a kickback. They call it a drug manufacturer rebate because they say they're driving down prices. It's a bribe, a kickback, whatever you want to call it. But they're giving this back, and they know they can achieve formulary status at a preferred rate and still have this huge profit margin. So let me give you an example. Say you have two drugs. One of them is $50 and one of them is $500, and they both do the exact same thing. The $500 drug then in turn offers a rebate, which today, according to a study by Forbes magazine done by the Berkeley Group, the average is 31%. So 31% of the brand name drugs currently, the cost of that is in rebates. So say you have a $200 drug, it'd be $62 in rebates. So let's just say 30% to make it easy on this $500 drug. So this $500 drug is going to offer them $150 in rebates. Okay. Well, this $50 drug can't offer $150 in rebates. It's only $50. So who gets on the formulary? The $500 drug. Okay, so now what do you have? You have the $150 going to the PBM. The person at the end paying the bill, which is the state or federal government or the large insurance company, now is paying $500 when they would have only had to pay $50. If it's an insurance company, they in turn would raise their insurance premiums, because they always have to stay ahead of the curve. They always have to make money. So if the drug prices are going up, the insurance in turn has to raise its premiums. So this is really happening right now in the specialty market, and PBMs are making a huge amount of profit. And let me explain what they're doing. There'll be a specialty drug that's $10,000, okay? And there'll be a biosimilar drug that's $3,000. Well, that $10,000 in turn can offer $3,100 or $3,500. Some of them are even offering 50% rebates, but let's just say $3,100 rebate. The $3,000 drug, of course, can't do that. It's only $3,000. So now the $10,000 drug is on the formulary. The $3,000 drug is not. the person paying the bill at the end is now paying $7,000 more than they had to. And these PBMs are taking that $3,100 out of the economy. What this also did is, to do the rebate or the kickback, it's caused a continual bidding war because there's 5 or 6 drugs that work for each condition. So that rebate might have started out $5, and then it went to next year $10, and then $15, and then $20 and $25, and it just keeps going. And it's caused a bidding war to see who's going to be on the formulary. What that is in turn done is caused the brand name drug prices to go up 20, 30 times the cost of inflation. This rebate structure has caused brand names to go up 12 to 17% annually for the last 5 years. In turn, the insurance premiums are going up by that same amount. This is never going to stop. As long as rebates or kickbacks are allowed in this system, you're always going to have increases in brand name drug prices, and you're always going to have increases in insurance premiums. This has to be eliminated, absolutely eliminated, because it's not keeping the cost of the brand names down. It's doing exactly the opposite. So in this scenario where there are kickbacks and there are rebates, who are the winners and the losers? Let's go through the losers. Independent pharmacies, and I'll explain why later. Other pharmacies except CVS, and I'll explain why later. The uninsured customer. Why would the uninsured customer be affected by a rebate? Because now the inhaler that used to cost $40 costs $70. So when he goes in, he pays $30 more than you have to. The self-insured customer. So why would it affect the self-insured customer? Well, he's paying healthcare premiums, or she, and those premiums are going up double digits every year because of this whole scheme. So now you see your insurance premiums going up astronomically. And also, like currently right now, a lot of people have these high deductible plans, or if you're a senior on Medicare, like right here, you have a deductible phase. So during that deductible phase, since your brand name prices are elevated, you're going to be paying a lot more for them. If you're a senior, you also reach your gap quicker, which then in turn makes you pay a lot more out-of-pocket expense. The large self-insured employers now, because of this whole scheme, because of the rebates and kickbacks, and actually the spread pricing, which we'll go over next, they're paying 30-40% more for their medication than they should. Also, state and federal governments are doing the same thing, 30 to 40% more for their medication than they should. Why do I have insurance companies in the middle and not as a loser? Because insurance companies will just adjust their rates. And who will pay for that? You will. You're going to pay more in insurance premiums. And if your insurance is provided to you by your work's going to pay it. So that's who's the losers. Who's the winners in this thing? PBMs. And anyone that's affiliated with a PBM. That's it. That's the only winners. Everybody else loses. This rebate kickback thing was only basically with brand name drugs. Because the generics are so much less expensive, they weren't having much luck getting much money out of trying to do the same scenario with the generics. So they came up with a concept called spread pricing. And spread pricing is pretty easy. It's just they're going to mark it up from what they pay the pharmacy to what they charge the person paying the bill. So in a spread pricing scenario, they might pay the pharmacy $10 and they might charge the person paying the bill $30. And here's some scenarios that I have, and they do it a lot worse than that. Like in this scenario right here, they charge the person paying the bill, which could be the company or the state or federal government, $132. They only paid the pharmacy $36. This PBM pockets $96.38. Well, that drug costs $91, so the pharmacy loses $55. In this next scenario, it's even worse. The company paying the bill, $869. Pharmacy gets paid $25, but it costs $615. Pharmacy loses $590. The PBM pockets $844. I mean, this should be fraud. This stuff's illegal. I don't understand how they can do that. So then let me explain what MAC pricing is. This is the next thing they did. MAC pricing is just maximum allowable cost. That means this is the maximum that we're going to pay you for this medication. Well, that's fine and dandy. Everybody has a maximum they're paying for stuff. But what they did by using this term is they used MAC to allow them to manipulate and redistribute profit wherever they wanted to do it. For their mail order facilities, they would have, say they had it for a contract that said the retail pharmacy was going to fill for MAC, maximum allowable cost, plus $1 dispensing fee. For their mail order, they have a contract that says that the mail order would fill for MAC minus 20%, and they weren't even going to have a dispensing fee. Well, which one sounds like a better deal? Everybody's like, well, that mail order is going to be way cheaper. Look, they're filling 20% less and they're not even doing a dispensing fee. No, this is what they did. The way to explain a MAC list would be like if you had a retail store and you got all your products in and they had a price, a cost price, and then they had a sell price, okay? They're the same exact products, but there's two different prices for them. Well, what they did is they put a different set of prices in these MACs. So when the retail pharmacy would fill the drug, the MAC might be $10. When the mail order would fill the drug, the MAC might be $40 for the same exact thing. Well, you can take 40 minus 20% plus no dispensing fee, and you're still paying way more than you are for at a retail place. So this is why there are no mail order facilities that aren't associated with a PBM. PBMs own every single mail order facility. Why? If it was really a good deal and you could go out there and offer savings, there would be Sullivan Drugs mail order. There would be all kind of different mail order places out there. Why are they only associated with PBMs? The PBM sends business to mail order by either offering a lower copay for the customer or mandating it. Nobody would use mail order if that wasn't happening. The delivery system is nowhere near as good. You don't have face-to-face contact. As a pharmacist, I can look at everything you're taking and I can see if what you're getting interacts with something. I can see if you're picking up something that's an over-the-counter, if you should be getting that with what you're getting. I can also be there if you just have questions where you have to call some line and sit on hold and talk to whoever if you have any kind of questions with them. The delivery system is nowhere near as good. Nobody would use this if they weren't forced to use this or offered incentives to use it. And this is a major money maker for the PBMs. So I've gone over the fact that mail order is a scam and that their pricing uses manipulation, either using different MACs, which are higher, not applying a MAC at all and going off of AWP, allowing them to profit more, or using a unit size that is only available for mail order, which has a higher AWP per unit than the retail. But besides that, mail order touts that it has a much better adherence level than retail. Simply mailing out prescriptions that are not even ordered by the customer does not equal adherence. It just equals a lot of expense to the end payers. And this is evidence in my last drug take back, I saw a ton of drugs coming back in, but from retail, what I saw is partials or open product, and what I saw from mail order was untouched, unopened waste. And it shows in this picture, this is one person brought this in, $21,100 worth at my cost, of waste that they didn't order and didn't use. That's not adherence, that's waste. On this MAC pricing, what they did is they started lowering the MAC pricing so far to all the retail places that people were having a hard time making a profit. I'll have to explain, I guess, cost to dispense in here to explain what I'm talking about. Cost to dispense, every business has a cost to dispense. It's how much do you have in expenses over and above the cost of the product before you get to an actual profit. So in pharmacies, there's all the salaries, wages, insurances, computers, normal business things like light bills and trash and everything. And so the average cost to dispense for an independent pharmacy last year was $11.21. That means that if the drug costs $20, you had to get $31.21 to break even. And anything above $31.21 you had actually made a profit on. Now, I said independent pharmacies was $11.21. Chain pharmacies are actually quite a bit more than that. They range anywhere from $12 to $16. And why would that be? Well, they buy expensive real estate. They want the best corner lot. They have profit sharing, 401ks, all kind of stuff. A lot of times in an independent pharmacy, it's like me. The owner is also the pharmacist, and they cut corners on stuff. Like, I don't even have real insurance right now. I have something that's kind of a gamble. Like, if I break my arm, I get a certain amount of money, and I can't afford the real insurance, and that's what's going on with a lot of independents. That they've cut corners on a lot of these things, so our cost to dispense is a lot less than a chain. So in a normal environment, the independent pharmacies would by far outlast a chain because we're more economical. We can fill things at a less expense. If you remember, about 5 years ago, Walgreens stopped taking one of these PBMs, Express Scripts, and there were signs everywhere, and they weren't taking them. And what it was is they had cut down these MAC prices so far that Walgreens is like, we're not making any money. We can't cover the drug cost and the cost to dispense and make any money, so we're just not going to take you. Well, all these PBMs, which I should have gone over, the big three, United Healthcare, CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, are 80% of the business. That's the main players in the game. All these guys started to get nervous because they're like, well, if Walgreens is going to say, we're not going to take you, is Walmart going to follow suit? Is CVS going to follow suit? They started getting nervous. So then they came up with an idea, hey, well, we got away with using different MAC lists for mail order. Let's use different MAC lists for chain pharmacies so we don't lose their business. So what they started doing is paying for the same exact drug, the same insurance, the same person, more to chain pharmacies than they did to independents, which shouldn't be illegal. So it might be if you come in and get a prescription for an antibiotic, the chain pharmacy might get $20 where the independent gets $10. Well, that's not covering our cost to dispense. It's not going to keep us in business. So that's one of the main reasons why independents are having a hard time with this PBM scam. The next thing that happened was copay clawback. So copay clawback is, say you have an insurance card and you bring it in to me and you have a prescription for atorvastatin 40 milligrams and you want it filled generically because on your prescription card it should cost $15. So you give it to me and you get your prescription, you pay $15. And you assume, since my normal price for that thing would be $20, that the PBM is going to give me the other $5. Well, not only do they not give me the other $5, they've decided that my MAC price for that atorvastatin is $5, which doesn't even cost, it barely covers the cost of the drug, and it doesn't cover the cost of dispense at all. So what happens to that other $10 that you paid me? They take it back. So you just paid me $15, of which I only got $5, and the PBM pockets $10. Well, that's bad, but it's not near as bad as a lot of the copay clawbacks. A lot of times, like, there's several examples out there where we'll run a claim, it'll come back $280 for the customer. My cost of the drug would be $40, okay? So I paid $40 for it, the customer's having to pay $280 for it. The PBM in turn says, you know what, I'm only going to give the pharmacy $20. The pharmacy's going to lose $20 on this claim, and we're going to pocket that whole $260 in between. Okay? So pharmacies like me were like, man, that's horrible. I'm going to lose $20 and the patient's getting gypped. So we would reverse out that claim, and then we would say, well, you know what, it cost me $40. I've got $11.21 in my cost of dispense. Why don't I just charge you $52 instead of $280? You're going to save, what is that? You're going to save $230. I'm going to at least make my cost of dispense back on the drug. We're both better off. So what did these companies do, these PBMs? They came back with new wording in their contracts that said, number one, pharmacies must fill any prescription regardless of loss, or we'd lose our contract. Because they knew they were going to pay us under cost on a lot of them, and they didn't want the customers not being taken care of. Or, blowing the whistle. The second thing is they said, we must not divulge pricing information to customers or to other pharmacies. Basically, not divulge pricing information to anybody. Because they knew that these prices that they paid the pharmacies were not only going to be unfair, but they weren't even going to be the same. They were going to pay, different places, different things. Then some of them came back and they actually said, if a government entity or a state entity comes in and wants to audit you, you cannot give them your information. You have to first give it to us to give it to them. So, they know what they're doing is not legal and it's shady, and so they're trying to make it so they don't get caught. The last thing they did in this contract was, regardless of savings to the customer, the pharmacy must run the prescription through the PBM instead of running it cash. Why? Because good pharmacists like me were doing what I was talking about. We would reverse that out and save the customer $250, and the PBM would be out on their profit. They'd be out on $260. But what else were they out on? If that drug was a brand name, they didn't get their rebate or their kickback. What else were they out on? If it was a generic, they were going to in turn take that drug that was $280 and mark it up to whatever, $300 or $400 to the person paying the bill. So they lost out on 3 profit streams by me saving you money. They didn't get to gyp the consumer. They didn't get to take the money from the consumer. They didn't get to take the kickback or the rebate from the manufacturer, and they didn't get to mark it up to the person paying the bill. And that's in their contracts that we can't do that. Next thing, so these are all things that affect you, okay? Copay clawback affects you because you're getting gypped, you're getting charged too much. The PBMs are pocketing the money. The spread pricing, how does that affect you? Because if you're the company paying the bill, it affects you. If you have insurance, your insurance premium is going up because of it. These rebates affect you. How does it affect you? Again, insurance premiums going up. The company paying the bill is paying way more than they have to because drugs that should not be on the formulary and are very expensive are now the ones that are on the formulary. And if you don't have insurance, you're paying for that high price too, because 31% of the brand name drugs right now is in rebates. A couple things that affect pharmacies but don't affect you. Audits. They're coming into independent pharmacies and taking back huge amounts of money for prescriptions that were filled legally by every state and federal law. And what they do is they look for a clerical error. Any kind of little small thing like a code you didn't put in properly. All these companies have a different amount of drops that they say that an eye drop should be. So if I figured out that eye drop should have lasted 20 days and they figure out it should have been 30 days, then they can take that claim back. Say you have a busy day and you're doing hundreds of scripts and your tech puts in that the prescription was e-scribed to you and it was actually faxed to you. They could go in, and they do this, they could go in and take a prescription that was for $1,000, say it was expensive like insulins, and they could take that whole claim back, and then they could take every refill associated with it. So you might lose $10,000 on one claim, and that claim was filled exactly right for a legal prescription by all state, federal regulations, and you just lost $10,000 on it. That's abuse. DIR fees. DIR fees are associated with Medicare plans, and they're very detrimental to pharmacies right now. What they did is the federal government's like, they knew something's up with these PBMs. They knew they weren't being legit. So they said, we want you to show us all your rebates and kickbacks, and we want you to show all of the spread pricing and everything. Well, when they did that, they couldn't spread price as much, and they had to give back or show almost all the rebates. So they were losing a lot of their profit. So they in turn started charging the pharmacies fees to fill these prescriptions. The fees started out nominal, but now they're up to, the average pharmacy pays $20,000 to $100,000 a year in DIR fees. It makes it so all your Medicare business, which is 30 to 40% of people, you don't make any money on. Well, just a couple days ago, on April 2nd, a lawsuit was filed against CVS Caremark because the DIR fees weren't enough for them. They spread priced, even though it said it was illegal to do that on Medicare contracts, over $1 billion, and charged that to customers unjustly and to the federal government unjustly. So that is a new lawsuit that just came out that shows the corruptness of this system. Why are chains less affected than independents? And why are these PBMs going to put independents out of business when they're not going to put chains out? Well, one of them is the MAC pricing, which I already explained to you. Walmart has formed an alliance with Humana and just recently announced that they're thinking about purchasing Humana, which is going to cause a vertical integration that will have unknown consequences on the healthcare system. And we'll wait to see what happens with that, but I don't think that's a good idea. Walgreens aligned with Prime Therapeutics, which isn't one of the big three, but is still a pretty big player. And then Walgreens and Prime Therapeutic just opened a mail order facility, which I already told you is jacking out a bunch of profit. That's what's keeping them afloat. CVS decided, heck with this. I'm gonna buy a PBM. So they bought CVS Caremark. And I'll show you what is going on right now. I can't show you examples from myself, even though there are plenty, because you saw that I can lose my contracts for doing that. These are all examples that are readily available on the internet. From Arkansas is blowing this stuff up, and they put a bunch of this stuff out. There was actually 260 examples of this that they had down there, and this is just a couple of them. Arkansas's pharmacies received $28 for aripiprazole 20 milligram. CVS, $512. Arkansas's pharmacy received $909 for temozolomide. CVS got $3,940. Well, the cost to these independent pharmacies was $1,254. So they actually lost $344 on this claim, where CVS profited $2,686. So if you own the person saying what you're going to pay, you can selectively pay yourself more and pay them less. That's unfair business practices, Federal Trade Commission. That's vertical monopoly, Federal Trade Commission. You should have never done this. And now they're trying to buy Aetna, which is going to further complicate things and mess things up. And just currently last week, Express Scripts and Cigna are trying to merge together, this is all going to become a huge mess that's costing tons of money if it's not fixed. So let me explain what else they could do, and they haven't figured it out yet, which I don't know why they haven't figured it out, because they don't have to be paying themselves more. They could be paying themselves the exact same amount that they're paying everybody else and still put everybody else out of business. And I don't know if they just haven't thought of this or what's going on, but CVS pharmacies right now own 9,700 stores. There's 22,000 independents plus all the other chains. All the stores together make about 50,000 stores. So to make numbers easy, CVS owns approximately 20%. Everybody else together is 80%. Okay? What ratio is that? 1 to 4. So say you're the company up here, the PBM, and you decrease reimbursement to your own pharmacies by $1 million. What happens to that $1 million? Well, it directly goes back to them. Okay? So they didn't lose anything. They decreased it $1 million and it went back to them. But what else did it do? They in turn, since this is 4 times decreased the reimbursement $4 million, and $4 million came back to them. So for every $1 million they decreased the reimbursement, $5 million comes back to them. So it's in their best interest to lower reimbursement. Now, right now, they're doing both. They're lowering reimbursement here, getting the $4 million back, and then paying themselves a ton of money. Which, I mean, that's double illegal. But Federal Trade Commission, come on, this should not be allowed. So what has this vertical monopoly done for CVS Caremark? It's allowed them to decrease the reimbursement to their competitors, like myself, to a point where we can't stay in business. And at the same time, send us letters offering to buy us out, because they know if they buy us, they can in turn pay themselves better. So I've received 2 of these letters in the last 4 months saying, we realize reimbursements are unfair and they're very low right now. Well, yes, you realize that because you're doing that to me. You're doing it to you're the ones doing it to me. So this vertical monopoly should never have been allowed. It's single-handedly allowing CVS Caremark to price all their competitors out of business. They're starting with independent pharmacies, but they can move on to other chains after that. And the Federal Trade Commission needs to make this go away. Now let's take a look at the devastating effects of CVS Caremark's vertical monopoly and unfair business practices on the state of Ohio in the period of a couple years. In that time frame, there were 165 independent pharmacies put out of business. CVS acquired 65 of those stores. When you look at all the other chains, Kroger, Walmart, Rite Aid, Meijer, and Walgreens, they stayed level. None of those went up or down. So it's obvious to see from this the unfair effects CVS Caremark's vertical monopoly has, allowing them to acquire 65 of the 165 independents that were put out of business. What happened to the other 100 stores? Nothing. They were closed, leaving underserved areas and entire towns without pharmacies. Why do you just, as an independent pharmacy, say, you know what, I'm not taking you, CVS Caremark, I'm not taking you? Because any one of these 3, if any one of these 3 you don't have, you go out of business, because all of them are 25+% of your business, and you just can't exist without 25+% of your business. So they send out contracts that nobody wants to sign. They're horrible contracts. Everybody has to sign them basically under duress because they're going to go out of business if they don't sign the contracts. So I told you that CVS just agreed to terms to buy Aetna, which Aetna has its own PBM. It's also an insurance company, which is going to convolute everything. How much profit can they shift and manipulate and get in that scheme? For $69.9 billion. It doesn't even seem like a real figure. $69.9 billion. Why would they offer $69.9 billion for something that's just a switch? All the companies in the United States, think of the most profitable, biggest companies: Walmart, ExxonMobil, Boeing, AT&T, General Electric, Shell, Google, Ford, Apple, GM, Amazon. All those big monsters. PBM affiliated companies take up 2 of the top 7 and 3 of the top 22 on the Fortune 500. Now, to fully get the concept of this, you have to look at Amazon. So Amazon, who sells tons of product, only has $136 billion of revenue, counting all the product they've sold. And the top 3 PBM affiliated companies have $462 billion worth of revenue. And the PBM part of it doesn't sell any product at all. So where is $462 billion coming from? It's coming from the economy. I said $462 billion worth of revenue from the top 3 PBM associated companies. And I know these PBM lobbyists that are getting paid tons of money are going to try to debunk that and say, yeah, but there's a lot of business associated in with that's not PBM. Well, let's dive into that and see how much of this is actually taken out of the healthcare system that is PBM. Express Scripts is the only standalone PBM. It's estimated that the company's profit per prescription has increased 38% every year from the year 2003 to 2016. That is a 494% increase in that time frame. Everything associated with Express Scripts is either PBM or mail order, which is a PBM scam. CVS, the pharmacy retailer CVS Health, with 9,700 retail locations, really isn't a retailer, and that's what I've been telling you. It makes 2/3 of its revenue off the PBM services. That puts it at number 7 on the Fortune 500. I'm going to go through and explain that further after I get done with United Healthcare. United Healthcare has a insurance component to it too, but it makes half of its revenue from the PBM part of it. So you're going to see that out of that, and when I go through and explain this, that out of that $462 billion worth of revenue, there's hundreds of billions, 200 to 300 at least, that is coming straight from the PBM, a straight drain. So if you go into this is the CVS Caremark business model from 2010 to 2017. Now on this side, it looks like their retail pharmacy revenues went up from $57 billion to $79 billion. But what really happened is by having this illegal vertical monopoly, they were able to increase the amount of stores they have from 7,250 to 9,700 stores. When you take out the stores and you average them, they're averaging within 2% exactly the same. So they did not go up on revenue, they went up on stores because they were able to buy them with their illegal vertical monopoly. What happened to their PBM in that same time frame is totally different. Their PBM went from, in 2010, from $47 billion to in 2017, $130 billion. That's a 277% increase in the same time frame. 2% increase, 277% increase. In the same time frame, 2010 to 2017, the total inflation was 12%. If you take 277% minus 12%, that's 265%. So taking inflation out of the equation, the PBM figured out how to take that much more, 265% more profit out of the PBM system in that time frame. If you take 38% over these 13 years, if you take these years and take out and divide it out, that's 39.5%. So these PBMs have figured out every year how to take more out of the economy. If you take a look, this right here is the rebates they've been taking out of the system from manufacturers. And you can see how it just keeps ramping up and ramping up. That is $127 billion for the year 2016, and it went up from there. I think it was $150 billion for 2017. So $150 billion just in rebates they took out of the economy. That's not to mention spread pricing that they took out, probably that equivalent amount. Copay clawbacks that they took back money from. DIR fees, which I already said was $20,000 to $100,000 per pharmacy that they took back out of the economy. Audits. And that's not to mention the double-digit increases that they've absolutely caused on the brand names every year and the insurance premiums every year. Besides that, when you look at these two revenues for CVS Caremark, of this $79.4 billion, only about 5% of that turns into actual profit because they have the cost of the drug and all the expenses and the cost of dispense. Of this $130 billion, almost all of it turns into profit because they don't do anything. All they have to do is pay their high executives $20 million a year. So what do they have in expenses? Crazy high executive salaries, that's it. So this whole Caremark thing, their pharmacies are making very little compared to their PBM. Their pharmacies are absolutely just a pawn in the equation. I want to show you how these PBMs are doing this. First of all, whoever came up with the PBM scheme and the way to suck this much profit out of a place is an evil genius, because they have somehow figured out how to suck hundreds of billions of dollars out of the economy while claiming they're saving money. So let me go through the figures, and I'm going to show you where I got these figures from and why I used them, and then I'll show you what that does to the economy. The average current cost of a brand name drug as of 2015 was $264 and change. It's gone up since then, but I didn't have a regular figure. So if you look at my brand name prices that I used, I never did get to $264, so I'm being lenient. The average cost of a generic drug is $23, okay? So you'll see I went 21, 22, 23. So I'm using averages for brand and averages for generic. Manufacturer's cost increase of brand have been 12 to 17%. So I used 14%. That's on the lower end of the middle. So on the brand name drug that started out 200 and you go up 14%, it goes 200, 224, 251. And this is what everybody's seeing. They're like, man, in 3 years my drug went from $200 to $251. What's going on? You know, inflation's not that high. It's exponentially higher than inflation. What's going on? Generics have averaged about 5% over that time period. So they haven't followed that same trend. They went 21, 22, 23. And why is that? Because there's no kickback in the generics. They make all their money by overcharging the person paying the bill and spread pricing. So you can see what the effect of rebates does to the price of drugs. It's obvious between brands and generics. That rebate or that structure right there is what is causing most of the inflation. Now we'll go back to the amount that I'm going to use for the figure for the rebate. This is off that study in Forbes magazine that said 31% of the average. So that's what I'm using. Now for the portion of the rebate or the kickback that the PBM retains and the portion that they are giving back to the employer, this is basically an educated guess, and I'm being lenient. PBMs will not open up their books. They will not show anybody how much they're getting in rebates, how much they're giving back to the person paying the bill. They will not show anybody how much they're spread pricing. So I went on the low end of all this stuff because I didn't want to be on the high end. I went on the low end. We know for a fact that 26% of the companies that deal with these PBMs get zero in rebates back. 26%, okay? So there's only 74% that we're left dealing with. Out of that, I'm saying that the PBM keeps 60% of it and gives back 40% of it. I think that's extremely lenient. A lot of people think it's closer to 5%, and what that would really mean is that the PBM of those remaining, I'm doing this as an average across the board. This means that of the remaining 74%, the PBMs are only keeping 46% of the rebate and giving back 54%. So we've gone through where I'm getting these figures from. They're all averages. Cost to dispense was off the average. So now let me show you what this does. You have a brand name and a generic drug. one of each. This is the price paid to the independent pharmacy, $200 and $36. So you can see at the bottom, total price paid to independent pharmacy is $236. So you see where I get that figure from. Year one, on average, the independent pharmacy was getting $15 over cost. Okay, some you get a lot, some you get a little, but we're averaging $15 over cost. The cost to dispense was $11.21, so the actual profit was $3.79. Okay, so on 2 prescriptions, we made $7.58. Okay, spread pricing. This is a figure that is an educated guess also, because we've seen spread pricing as low as $10 a prescription. We've also seen it as high as $850 a prescription. Most people think this is averaging somewhere around $30 a prescription. If either one of these figures the PBM thinks is off or high, I challenge them to come in and open their books and show me not just one company, but every company on their whole thing. They won't do it, because I bet these figures are low. I bet they're doing way worse than this. But I'm trying to stay on the low end, so I'm saying that spread pricing was $20. So if they paid the pharmacy $36 and they spread priced at $20, they ended up charging the person at the end $56. Okay? On this, if there was 31% in rebate, 31% of $200 is $62. If they kept 60% and gave 40% back to the person paying the bill, the person paying the bill would pay $25 less than $200. So they would pay $175. So this is how they're getting around, and they're making it seem like they're saving money, okay? Because these people are bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars. They have really smart lobbyists and really smart people explaining this. Do you think they're going to show them this side over here? No, they're going to say, look how much money we're saving you. By these rebates, we just saved you $25 on one prescription. So if you take $175 and you add it to $56, they paid $231 at the end of the show. Well, that still looks like a savings. Okay, look. If they would have got it from the pharmacy, what they paid to the pharmacy is $236. What that person actually had to pay at the end of the show is $231. And I'm being lenient because nobody right now, nobody is seeing that they're actually saving money. They're lucky to be even, and most people are paying more. I made this figure be low, like they're saving money, because I wanted to show, even if they showed a savings, what they're not showing a savings to anybody. Nobody gets on a PBM and saves money. That it's still how much it's going to take out of the healthcare system. This is the insurance premiums, $266. Okay, why do I have it that? Because when I read what the average insurance has to have, it's about 15% above the cost to pay all their bills and everything and have a profit. Okay, so $231, $266. So as you can see, when this goes up $255, the insurance premium goes up $293. $324, and this is what people are seeing in insurance premiums: $266, $293, $324. Until they make kickbacks or rebates on these drugs illegal, you're always going to have double-digit increases in brand name prices. You're always going to have double-digit increases in insurance premiums for infinity. It's never going to end until they make this part illegal and this whole scheme of rebates and kickbacks gone. At the end of this, it looks like they saved money, $5 on 2 prescriptions. The independent pharmacy made $7.58. The PBM, spread priced at $20, got $37 off of the rebate. They made $57 off those 2 prescriptions, and they're saying they're saving money. So then you go on to the next year, okay? They go, hey, we're going to save you even more money. We're going to make these pharmacies, instead of getting $15 over the average cost, we're going to make it so they're only getting $13 over the average cost. And don't listen to the pharmacies. They're only complaining because we're doing a really good job. We're keeping these healthcare costs down. You know, we're driving the cost of we're driving it down. We're demanding more rebates, and we're really hard on these pharmacies. We're keeping the cost of drugs down. So what happens? Inflation of the brand name drug results in a higher rebate amount, which results in a higher savings to the person paying the bill, and a higher amount of rebate going to the PBM. So instead of paying $224 at the pharmacy, they now pay $196. They saved them even more. Look, last year we only saved you $25 on this prescription. This year we saved you $28. That's on one prescription we saved you $28. They don't show them this other side of the equation. So what they do is they say, you know what? Generics are going up about 5%. We raised you 5%. No big deal. 56, 59. Well, now they're paying us less. So we're only getting $13 over. So we got $35. Our profit went from $13 to $11.21, went down to $1.79 a prescription. Their spread price just went up to $24. So they're making more on their rebate, more on their spread price, more total, and the independent pharmacy is making less. At the end of the show, they would have paid $2.59 at the, right here plus this, at the independent pharmacy. They paid $2.55. Saving you money, right? Saving you money. Next year they do the same thing. They say, we're going to drive it down even farther. We're going to bring these pharmacies down to $11 over the cost. Okay? Don't listen to them, because we're really driving this down. We're going to save you even more money. We're saving you $31 this year because you already saw the math, how it goes. Spread goes up to 28. They make more money, $75. We have a net loss on those two prescriptions of 42 cents. They have a net gain of $75. They're still showing to the employer that they're saving money. They're not saving money. Their whole scheme has driven this price from $200 to $251. Their whole scheme has driven insurance prices from $266 to $324. Their whole scheme has driven $231 to $282. They're not saving money. They're costing money. So now let me show you in figures what that does at the average independent pharmacy. There's 22,100 independent pharmacies. The average independent pharmacy fills just over 60,000 prescriptions a year. Okay? If you take my revenue from the first year, $3.79, 21 cents, negative 21 cents, and you put this into math, that times this, the first year the independent made $229,000. Okay? The second year they made $108,000. Okay? Still making it, but the profit's not as good, okay? Year 3 that we're in. Look at this. Negative 21 cents times 60,000, negative $12,000. That's why all the independent pharmacies are sweating right now. They got $1 million investment out there that's losing money, okay? 2016 figures for generics, 82% of the drugs filled were generics. 82% of that number is this number. You take that number times the spreads, 20, 24, 28, 20, 24, 28. This is how much they took out of the economy. Year 1, 992,000. Year 2, 1,000,001. Year 3, 1,000,003 for just the spread pricing. Now you go to the part that they kept in the rebates. 18%, that's what's left. That's how many. Take the rebate part that they kept. Those numbers. They took an additional 402, 446, and 551 out of the economy. At the average independent pharmacy, on the average figures, 1,004,000, 1,006,000, 1,900,000, these PBMs raked out of the U.S. economy. Raked. If you would have told me that you could come up with a scheme where you could take all the profit away from the pharmacy, every bit of profit, make them work all year long and get no profit, do all the work, buy the drugs, counsel the people, sell it, and you could take all their profit away, but they didn't just do that. Whoever's paying the bill, whoever's paying the insurance premiums, the economy. So they took everything I was going to make and they took everything else away from you. So I already know what they're going to do next. They're going to come back and say, you know what? You got us. We were keeping a lot of this rebate, okay? we're going to give 100% of that rebate back to whoever's paying the bill. Okay? So now, 240 minus $78, $173. Look at that savings. 251 to 173. Not saying anything about spread pricing. They're going to still do that. At the end of the show, they're actually going to show on paper that they're saving the person on 2 prescriptions $50. But they're still, the only thing it got rid of was the rebate amount. They're still going to be taking $1.4 million out of every independent pharmacy out of the economy. $1.4 million times 22,100. They haven't even done this yet. They're still at this phase over here. Okay? The only way to get this taken care of, you can't have PBM reform. You have to have PBMs eliminated. They need replaced with a transparent model that has no rebates. They have to be illegal. No spread pricing. They have to be illegal. No multiple max so they can play games. Everything else will take care of itself. If you have no multiple max, there will be no mail order because it's a scam. If you have, they couldn't then distribute the profit to their own stores or redistribute it to chains more than independents. If you have no rebates, what happens to the $1,000 drug that there's a $50 drug that does the same thing? That $1,000 drug gets zero play now, okay? All of a sudden, healthcare costs start to go spiral down instead of spiral up. You put out a new drug as a drug company, you're going to look at the environment and go, I can't price it high because there's a drug over there that's this price that nobody's going to put us on their formulary because we can't make it up in rebates or kickbacks to them. Rebates have to be gone, spread pricing has to be illegal, and the only fee that a PBM or a transparent PBM should be able to charge is a per transaction fee that is charged to the person paying the bill at the end, and they should know it up front what it is. State and federal governments are wondering how they're going to make up their deficits. This kind of money right here that's going to PBMs, you multiply that out by all the pharmacies in the United States, that's big money. It can pay for infrastructure that we so drastically need replaced. It could pay for all kind of things at state and federal levels that we don't have the money for right now. And it's going to PBMs that are a non-vital part of the healthcare system at all. They can be replaced with a transparent model very easily and save all this money. Please contact your state, federal legislators. Demand a change. I'm begging you.